Ah, dawn, my favourite time of the day. After the early call to prayer, as the world wakes up, the seascape around Medana Bay Marina pauses before the business of the day begins. Jamie and I got into the habit of taking a wander down the beach before sunrise every morning, and what stroll wouldn't be complete without a few dogs for company? Tiger, who you met briefly in the last episode, always leads the way. Firmly by our sides is Moxie, the rotund matriarch of the restaurant, who switched from layabout to long-distance runner during these walks. Variously lurking behind or running ahead is Sneaky, the weird cartoon dog who didn't let you touch him but would gently feed from your hand. And finally there's Jack, our emaciated puppy, with a serious injury, who we tamed, fed and watched grow into a healthy, gentle and friendly little cutie with gorgeous button eyes. Because the 4 dogs became our daily walking gang, they stuck together in the yard, and it thrilled us to watch Jack being taken under the wings of Moxie and Tiger.
Today I thought I would tackle the Watermaker. It's a Schenker 30 modular system. Now I have recorded in the past me completely stripping this down and rebuilding it, so if you are interested in how it all works, I'll try and find a link and put it in the description. But today what I wanted to do was just to replace the membranes. The membranes go in here, and of course that's the main key ingredient for the Watermaker, because the water passes through the membranes and that's how the fresh water is extracted from the salt, along with all the other particles as well. So really the way it works is you have these 2 plugs either end, and they slot into the membrane, which has a little stem at the end like so, and it drops in there, and you feed the membrane into the tube, and these plugs go in on the end. And on the other end, on the outside end, are the various inlets and outlets. The main issue you might have with removing these things is that the membrane sort of gets stuck. So there is nothing wrong with using a mallet and a piece of wood and just gently tapping. If you can't get the plug out, tap onto the plug and just gently tap it out to about here, and that will push out the other end. You'll be able to remove the other end plug, and then tap the membrane that way to remove this plug back out this way, and then you should just be able to pull the membrane out. That's just typical, isn't it? I wanted to start recording and tell you all about the vinyl wrapping that's happened on this boat, and this guy's literally just started. This guy goes on more than 5 times a day. They even play music through this speaker. But just very quickly, what I wanted to show you was this procedure of vinyl wrapping a boat. Now, it's not something I've ever seen done before, but I think I'm going to have to come back to this, aren't I?
Jamie never did return for a follow-up, but from what we saw, the vinyl wrap went well, and the finish was convincing. We're not sure we'd do this ourselves, but it's a good, cheap alternative to spray painting. Would you consider vinyl wrapping your boat? Let us know in the comments. In the previous roundup, we mentioned that the electricians came in to replace some of the strip lighting in the galley. Well, they did a really great job, and because the price was so reasonable, we decided to replace all the LED lighting around the whole boat, and what a difference it makes. Another problem the talented young electrician repaired was the broken cursor on our cockpit chart plotter. The fix? He replaced it with a computer keyboard button. And while they were there on board, Jamie got them to fix an issue with the sound system. Got to get your priorities right, eh?
So let me tell you about my hilarious accident. I was putting the membranes into those carbon tubes, which are just sitting here, like so. They're about 1 metre long, and I think I was mentioning how these go in, and there's an O-ring on one end. This helps you work out which way they go in. That O-ring is actually a flat O-ring, and it's slightly angled, so it can only really go in one way. So that's what I was doing. I was putting the membrane into the tube. When it hits that O-ring, it's a bit tight, so there's nothing wrong with just tapping it with a mallet and a wooden block with the plug on the end, and just tapping it down into the tube into position. This is what I was doing, and in order to get a good purchase on the tube, I held it against my chest, and with one gentle but firm tap, the membrane slipped into place, the plug slipped into place, taking first of all my chest hairs and then a pinch of skin. So I was there literally with this tube hanging off my chest, and of course it's only designed to go one way, so to get it out was really difficult. I had to get an attachment and screw it into the plug at the end and just use all my strength to try and pull it back out the wrong way, because the membrane isn't supposed to slide that in that direction. I'm not sure what the people in the boatyard thought about the noises coming from Esper, but it was rather painful, and I have a nasty bruise to show for it, but I still managed to retain my nipple. That's the main thing. What I've noticed is, having taken this apart for the first time in a long while, you may be able to see, if I square this camera up at the correct angle, square on, this block here is off centre. What's happened is the two bolts on these rods that run the length on this side have popped off. So they came undone, and that whole block has shifted like so. Now the thing is that this may have happened some time ago, and when we last used the Watermaker it was still functioning fine. So as I understand, this is still working as is. So I didn't want to take it apart until I checked with Hendro, our mechanic, that we could replace these threaded rods. These run all the way across like so. I wanted to check that we could actually source these, and they of course have to be stainless. The other thing I noticed as well was that the two hydraulic hoses that we have running from the unit that feed into the end of the membranes, they were not looking too great. They're obviously, what, 14, 15 years old? No, something like that. And they could do with replacing as well. And likewise, I didn't want to replace those until I knew that we could get the correct fittings for them. Well, here she is, up on the hard, and we've just finished anti-fouling. We're using Chigoku, which we used last time, and we are planning to drop in on Tuesday. It was going to be Monday tomorrow, but we've deferred by a day just because we have a couple more things to do, finishing off reinstalling the Watermaker, starting up the freezer as well, so we're going to do some shopping. And Liz did this. She put on the prop speed on the prop. Now last time we used prop 1, this time we're actually using prop speed. We found someone else in the yard to go halves with, because this stuff, well, it looks like gold dust, and it costs as much as gold dust. Not a bad job at all. Got the new anode on. So the plan is we'll get lifted in the morning, and obviously that will leave these patches here which haven't yet been anti-fouled, and we'll have a couple of hours just to sand those patches back and to put on a couple of coats. And otherwise, yeah, that's it really. I think everything else is almost ready to rock and roll. Filled up with water, we've filled up with diesel, and we're just going to finish off a few things up on deck. Do you want to have a look? Yeah, let's have a quick look. It's quite a good view up here as well. Bit of a mess, of course. That's our view, and over in the distance there is a volcano. One of the highest in Indonesia, I believe. One of the highest in Southeast Asia even. Very strange being hard on the grass and not concrete. It's like being in someone's back garden. This time in the boatyard there's been a lot of waiting around. 2 trips to the UK, of course, so we spent a lot longer than we normally would in a boatyard. But as you may be able to see as I pan around, there's a suspicious looking John Deere rigged up to the trailer, which in turn, as I point into the sun, is rigged up to Esper, meaning we are going to be dropping in tomorrow morning. So we are just finishing off doing little bits around the boat, and I thought I'd just record this last little bit because it is the most satisfying part of hauling out.
Hello, dog. Jackie, do you want to come and help? We doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, look at this, eh? Look, Jack. Do you want to pull it? Doesn't look too bad. There's a few little blobs, but...
It's a bad job at all. I think it's pretty smart.
Yeah, it's pretty good, isn't it? There we go. One more bit to go.
And the great thing is that John, who masked this all up, did it all in one go. So it's nice and easy to pull off. It's very satisfying.
And bring it along like this. And oh, look at it. Now, there's something right to the bow. There we go.
The evening before we dropped back into the water, Jamie went for a nighttime photo walk with his flash, staying within 200 metres of the boatyard. Behind the nearby mosque, he came across what at first glance appeared to be a party, but turned out to be a wake. In local culture, death is seen as a transitional phase where a person has to pass through in order to reach the next level of existence. The ceremonies, which continue for a week after the burial, are shared among family and friends, who are encouraged to bring gifts like eggs, rice and cooking oil, which go towards the preparation of a large feast known as the Selamatan.
That's banana leaf. Drop-in day today. Looks like we're going to be picked up in about half an hour, and it's a tractor system. I think I've shown you this already, but somewhere down there is the tractor. We're already jacked up on the trailer, and he has to manoeuvre us backwards. So he has got to drive in that gap there and then reverse us in. So yeah, we've pretty much got everything ready. The main thing are seacocks and also that dripless seal. So those are the most important things for me. There are many important things, of course, but as we go into the water, those are the things that are going to cause the most problems initially. So we just need to check those first. Crank up the engine. I don't know if we'll be able to put the boat in gear while on the cradle. I think we're sort of committed by that point. So, of course, I want to put the boat in gear because, first of all, there's a possible issue with the gearbox. Talk about that another time. But also the dripless seal as well. I like to actually turn the shaft to make sure the dripless seal remains dripless.
We are going back into the water, or as they say, splashing today. It's been months we've been here, quite a long time. Of course, 3 months of that we were in the UK, or you were in the UK. So done everything that we think we can do, but it's always anxiety making at this point. Do the seacocks all work properly? More important, does the engine work properly? because we've done a few changes, and you're worried a little bit about the gearbox. So yeah, once we've sorted all those things out, then it's going to be great. But I hate this bit.
Never like sailing too close to land. Neither do I like being towed backwards close to buildings. There goes a palm tree. Peter did say they have trimmed the trees, so we should be alright. They hauled out a catamaran yesterday as well, so they have had some issues with the tractor, which Hendro, our mechanic, has temporarily fixed. Let's hope it stays fixed until we're in the water.
There's a tree coming up here on the left side. Yes, that's on the starboard side, but the left. And those branches weren't cut off when we came in. And I was standing up here and they just came right down the boat, but they've now cut them down. So it's a lot clearer, and they can now get catamarans through. Next morning, we dropped in the water. And if you watched episode 340, all about our prop, you'll know we had some fun and games. We won't relive the drama here, but needless to say, Esper was finally floating back in the water once again.